Good morning, everybody. For some of you in Australia and on the other side of the world, it's already evening, so good evening. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish everybody a very happy new year, a year, please God, of great success in 2023. And I'd like to share some thoughts with you as we start this new beginning. So for me personally, it's never really easy, I'll admit, to set New Year's resolutions. And here's why. So as my personality is very typically type A, which means that I like things to be perfect. And where this sometimes can really work in my favor, sometimes it's really quite a stumbling block for me. So why does this trip me up with making New Year's resolutions? I have wonderful goals and dreams that I want to achieve. And certainly when I was younger and still really battling with my eating and my weight, come January the 1st, I would always have this ideal goal of this year is the year that I'm going to finally come to terms with my secretive eating, with my overeating, with my inability to stick to strict dieting, because surely the new year should be able to give me that energy and that oomph and that staying power to finally reach the goal that had been eluding me for a very, very long time. And each year that I would come closer to January 1st, I would start to become quite anxious about the thought of recommitting to something that I know was never working for me. And the reason that it never worked for me was, even though I may have had these lofty goals of never deviating and eating very strictly 1,200 calories a day in order to be able to reach my specific weight goal, as the days went on, the ability to be so strict and have a level of deprivation that I was not comfortable with. I don't know many people who are comfortable depriving themselves to that point, particularly when stressful situations came up or I was emotionally triggered. And I fully admit that emotional eating has been something that I've really have struggled with in the past. And thank God, through the work that I do and the tools that I've implemented for myself, this is something that I am much more on top of. Not to say that it doesn't ever happen, because of course I'm human, but it doesn't overwhelm me like it used to. So setting these kind of goals for me became very anxiety provoking, because I always felt like I was failing. I'd set a goal, wonderful. I was motivated. I was inspired. I'd had enough of feeling uncomfortable in my body. I knew what to do. Like so many of you have said to me in the past, I know what to eat. I just don't do it. I know what I want to achieve, and maybe one day I will. But right now, I may not be feeling comfortable, but there's not enough motivating me. There's not enough driving me to really make those changes that I need to in order to be able to implement this in my life. So I decided over time to approach this in a different way. And I heard a wonderful analogy from a woman that I learn Torah with in South Africa. And she speaks about this more around the time of the Jewish New Year, because for me also that is what I'm more connected to than January the 1st. But there is something very special about January the 1st, and that's why I wanted to bring you this message today. She speaks about how when we, in our home, we all have a messy place where we tend to dump things. So I'm not sure if any of you can relate to this. So it may be a table, maybe when you enter the house, where everyone puts something down on there. For me, if I think about it in my home, there are a few little spots where things tend to get just left lying and not necessarily cleaned up. So my husband has a small little freezer where he keeps his frozen biltong and boerewors that he sells. And on top of that freezer are keys and USB connections, and what else is on there? Tissues and pens, literally like a little bit of a dumping place. And then there are other places, I'm looking around my desk to see where else my dumping place is in my office. There's always an area of our home where we tend to have a little messy spot. And her analogy was this: if we want to stop having a messy spot in our life, how do we go about cleaning that up? Do we clean it up today and then decide that that's it, I'm never using that space again? How practical is that? Because if the space is still there, then every time we walk past it, we end up out of habit, out of behavior, out of our nature, using that spot to leave our keys, our tissues, or whatever, and it continues to be a messy spot. If we remove that completely out of the equation and it's no longer there, then we can't put the stuff in that place. Or perhaps we can create above, for me, I'm thinking, create above where that little freezer is, a shelf with maybe a few little compartments which could house the keys, could house the tissues, could house the pen, so that the items may still be there, but it's not looking so untidy. The same thing applies to when we are trying to build better habits and we're trying to achieve goals. If we are relying on ourselves using our same behaviors in order to get us to new goals, it's not going to happen. We need to build a framework. We need to build ourselves shelves and compartments in order to work within, in order to achieve that goal that we're trying to achieve. And that is something that I'm very grateful to say being able to implement, and there's still obviously many areas that I'm working on to try and improve on this in not only my own eating habits, but in my day-to-day life, because we are living, and every single day I personally feel like we should be striving to be a better version of ourselves. So the framework that you use to achieve those goals is really what brings the success, because our motivation wanes, our inspiration subsides. And this is a topic that I definitely will give a live about in about 3 weeks' time. I'll post on the group exactly when my next live series will be, to give you a little bit more of these supportive tools of how to be able to take your motivation and inspiration and magnify it, how to be able to reduce things like emotional eating, how to know what will give you the best staying power in order to achieve the goals that I know you really all want to achieve. So it's really about how we build this framework, how we look at our days, how we look at our weeks and say, right, where are the areas that I generally slip back into old habits, which are not supporting the new goal that I'm trying to achieve? Or maybe not the new goal that you're trying to achieve, but the goal that you've been wanting to achieve for so long, but that keeps eluding you. So I really today would just like to wish you a successful 2023. Perhaps to consider about, if you have made New Year's resolutions for yourself, how you can best support those, how you can implement practical ways of being able to reach the goals, which I know that you are all motivated and inspired to achieve, but maybe you're finding that you don't have the daily habits to build towards those. So with all new beginnings, when we begin with the end in mind, when we have a clear vision of what the goal is that we're trying to achieve, and then we put a support in place for ourselves, we build a framework in order to be able to reach those goals, to achieve those goals, we are far more successful in being able to do that. So I hope to be a support for you in this coming year. I hope to be able to give you some of the tools to build a framework in order to be able to reach your own wellness and health goals this year. And if any of you are interested in the upcoming new enrollment from our online program, in the chat, I have included a link to the waitlist registration. Please feel free to click on that and learn a little bit more about signing up for it. And you will also then, if you're on that waitlist, be able to sign up with an early bird registration fee when enrollment opens. So I'm wishing you all a very successful 2023, a wonderful first day of the year, and I look forward to learning more with you and giving you more support this year. And thank you for being part of this group, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.